Hey everyone, it's Abs from the W39 mod back again with the SDKFZ 231. So far we've modeled a little bit of the body and we haven't done the bottom or anything like that yet, and we've only modeled half of it. So in this lesson I plan on covering the creation of the turret, but before we do that I'm just going to quickly make a couple of modifications here to the bottom so that we can close it off and then mirror it before we get started on the turret. So what we're going to do is we are going to again extrude the sides. Now this isn't going to be 100% accurate, and the reason for that is because I just want to do a quick job. So this blueprint is of the 1939 model, so we are just going to bring it down about this far and then modify the back. Oops, that's what happens when you press the slash button as opposed to the right arrow button. I'll modify the back so that it looks appropriate, and then we'll just leave this front part here for now and we'll revisit it later. So if we take a look at it from the 3D perspective, here we go. This is what it looks like, and what we're going to do, again, we're just going to deselect this, deselect that, and then move it over just a little bit until the Y is at, oops, not the Y, until the X is at 0. And then what we'll do is we'll just we'll weld those two vertices until they're 1, and then weld those two vertices until they are 1. So now we have an entire half of the body. This is essentially one piece. So as I told you, there are two ways that you can start modeling. You could do a half and then mirror it, and which is what we've done so far. So just to complete that off, we're going to show the complete mirrored model with, of course, the some modifications that we have to do in the front, and I'll show you guys how to attach it before we move on to the turret. So once you've mirrored it, you convert it to an editable poly, and so essentially this is now still two separate pieces. As you can see, the newly created polys have been selected. However, if you move them apart, they're not attached. So we're going to fix that right now by going into Vertex Mode, checking out the front so that we could see all the vertexes and select them. So as you can see, 28 vertices are selected. So we're going to select the options here, and I find that a good threshold is 0, 0, 0, 1, of course, after the point. And if you do that, you essentially get all the vertices that are almost on top of each other, because sometimes it groups the ones that are close to each other, so we don't want to do that in order to keep the model's original shape. Now that there are half the number of vertices, it looks like we've actually missed something somewhere, because 28, if I'm not mistaken, divided by 2 is 14. But anyway, we'll figure that out later. Obviously you should figure it out now, but as this is recording, I'm just going to figure it out later. And we'll actually find out as soon as we remove these edges. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove these edges. And by these edges, I mean the edges down the middle, so that we get rid of that seam. So go into Edge Mode, select everything that is close to the seam, and then press Alt and then click and drag to deselect the edges you want to keep. So there we go, we have 16 edges. Now as you can see, it's all around the middle. So what we're going to do here is not press the delete button. This is what happens when we press delete. Oh my god, most of my model is gone. So press Ctrl Z to undo it. We're going to press the backspace button, and what that does is that deletes the edges while keeping the vertices in place. And as you can see, it didn't delete these edges, which means these vertices did not weld. Most likely it's these two right here. So that's not working for some reason. So let's just take a look at how we would deal with something like this. Select one, move it aside, get target weld the two suckers together, go back to Edge Mode, and then backspace. So now we're good. So then you go back into Vertex Mode, go to the front so that it's easier to select all the vertices in the middle. Now we have 14, the appropriate number of verts, and then press backspace again, and everything down that was down the middle is now gone. So no vertices, no lines, and you now have one solid object. So as we can see, it's really beginning to take shape here, from the back and from the front. So what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on the turret. And the best way to build the turret, or at least the fastest way that I found, is to start from the top and create a cylinder. So let's just stick with the default 18 for now. and we're looking to make it about this size, and you want to move it again so that you get the height as well. I know it doesn't look like you're getting the height from the top, but as you can see, you are. So there are 18 sides and 5 height segments. So right click the height segments because we don't need those, and then let's start adjusting them. So press W again to get this arrow, and then bring it up so that it touches the top of the body. Of course, how accurate you want to be is entirely up to you. I prefer getting it directly close. There we go. But look at that, that's too high. So I'm going to teach you now about the Deform. I call it the Deform. I don't know if it has another name. But anyway, it's this button right here. So if you press Alt X, it kind of makes it translucent for now. So we're just going to play with the Y modifier and bring it down to the appropriate height. Great. So what we have now looks like this. It's a nice cylinder that's approximately the same size as the turret we're looking for. Now what we're going to do is we're going to delete half of the semicircle. So because we're going to do that, we can afford to add a few more polys to kind of round out the half that's going to stay. So before we convert this to polygons, what we're going to do is we're just going to increase it here. So we'll make it around 26. 26 is good. Gives us that line right down the middle as opposed to an odd number. So we'll just keep that for now. Adjust this a little bit and maybe play with the size a little bit more until we're happy with the way that it looks. So speaking on playing with this modifier, if you select this inner triangle, it affects it on all 3 directions, so the X, Y, and the Z axis. But if you select this little strip over here, and you can see the difference over there, this little strip, it only affects it on the X and the Y axes. And the same thing for the different viewports that you are viewing at the present time. So we'll leave it at this, and then we will convert it to an editable poly. Now one thing about the menu, once you right click, you can either go to convert to and edit poly every single time, or you could just right click and then left click on the transform menu and it just redoes your last action. So one thing that we noticed when this was a mesh, it had all these wonderful triangles up top, but those are now gone as a poly, which for our intents and purposes actually works out for us. So let's grab these vertices from the top and then play with the X and the Y here until they match the inside of the turret. And there we go. We've got something that's pretty similar in shape, and it's a good starting point. So what do we do next? Because it has that odd shape, right, and the triangular angles, I'm going to teach you a few more tips and tricks here. So what we're going to do, we're going to delete half of this cylinder. It's going to delete the top and the bottom faces as well. And you know what? We're fine with that for now. So let's delete that. What we're going to do now is we're going to grab these 2 lines and extend them. So press Shift and start moving them down to about here. Why am I doing that? You'll see it very soon. So ideally, just to save time later, we would just create these faces now. Bear with me here while I do this. Alright, so as you can see, it's not quite the shape of the blueprint, but we're going to fix that by grabbing both of these edges and then using this deform tool. Now, if it's not on the middle, we're going to fix that because what we need to do is we need to expand it on either side. So click here, make this go in the center, and then move it about. There we go. You could do the same thing with verts as well. And we're starting to get the shape that matches the blueprint. And I think that's good enough for now. So we're almost there, but not quite. Because as we can see, even though it goes this far, there's this little bit that we need to get rid of. The way that I prefer doing this is by using the slice modifier. What the slice modifier does is has a few options. You can refine the mesh, split the mesh, remove the top, or remove the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this part. You could also use a shortcut, which is pressing the 1 key, and then move it around. So just to show you, that yellow line is the plane where the slice modifier will operate. It's kind of hard to see because of the blueprints, but there you go. The yellow line right there. So if I were to go remove top, it would remove the entire top half of the mesh. We don't want that yet. So what we're going to do from this view, we're going to move this about and play with it until we have a line that matches this. And as you can see, that was easy. It took us like 3 seconds to do. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the top, and voila, we have a line that matches our blueprint. So again, convert it to a poly, and then if we take a look here, it's pretty damn close, right? We can obviously play with it again because our blueprints don't quite match up on all 4 directions. It's not quite going to be right, so we'll just approximate for now. So what we do here is we create another face to fill it in, and that is done. Now, as you can imagine, we're going to have to do the same thing for the bottom as well. So let's go back and use the slice modifier again. Press 1 as a shortcut, and then move it around. And this time, if I'm not mistaken, we remove the bottom. Perfect. Let's convert it to a poly, and then take a look at what we see here. Let's just apply our modeling base. And by the way, if you want to get the material editor to pop up, the shortcut is the M key, or you could just press this right here. Alright, so we have that. Okay, so it doesn't quite match abs. That's probably what you're saying right now. It's almost there, but not quite. So here's what we do. We grab this edge, we bring it down. I'm sure you guys, if you have watched my other videos, already know what's about to happen. You grab it, you target weld, and then you grab that same edge, you bring it down again. Let's take a look at it from the front. And then we grab these 2 verts, bring it down to here, and then bring these bad boys in. Cool. So now we have the front, we have empty spaces where the triangles are supposed to be, and let's just make sure that we're exactly flat on the Z axis, or the Z axis, however you prefer. Alright, now all we have to do is just create these faces. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Press F4 to get rid of the lines, and now we have the turret. As you can see, there's that hard line over this. What we're going to do, again, we're just going to make sure that we have the smoothing groups appropriate. So just grab those newly selected faces, and then click on 4. Now, these faces already had the smoothing group applied. These ones didn't. So whenever you select multiple faces like that, the ones with the smoothing groups applied will be indicated by the number not being there. So we click on 4, and now all of them have smoothing group 4 applied. And that's what the turret will look like. So that's the quick and dirty way of getting the shape of the turret. Now, I didn't exactly plan on this being such a short lesson. This turret was really easy to build. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it, and then I'm going to think about what part I want to build next. So yeah, as you can see, hopefully modeling is easy. This video will continue as soon as I decide what to do next.